before I go any further, part of what we have learned, and I mean, as you go, it's also to be able to, I don't know how many of you have ever done your personality assessment. Has anyone ever done their personality assessment to check what is your personality? What's your personality? What would you say?
Again, it was a long time ago. I'll have to go back to those papers and see what it was.
Okay, I will urge, and I think maybe even for Rina, it's important. We've just recently done ours in the company at the Bemore Group, and you'll be amazed what is possible, because some of the things we are not naturally, it's not a natural, how do I say it? It's not a natural gift, or it's not something that you do naturally. There are people who are just disorganized because of their character. But that helps you to be able to learn what will help you to be able to be a better organized person. There are people who are just naturally, they are more organized. So that it's part of this, and I think I'm saying this so that when you look at it, don't be frustrated by looking at it and already think, no, I think I'm on the right side. Is it your right? Yeah, the right side, which is the struggling people. But you can develop new habits. I think that's what I'm trying to emphasize. Number three, the struggling people seldom identify specific action needed to accomplish an outcome and procrastinate when they do. Number four, the self-managed people, they employ interdependence, building mutually supportive relationships to achieve their goals. The other guys, are solitary. They often rejecting help from others, or they seek the company of other people who are equally negative. Self-gain. Can I say this, that while we are doing this, maybe check yourself in the process. You may not, I mean, part of it is being honest with ourselves. When you are not the most, some of the things you'll be able to see here that here I'm still struggling. And it does not mean then you are the struggling person altogether. It just means there are certain habits that you need to develop. Self-organized people, they get self-awareness. Yes?
It's coming here. I'm just one who finds it very difficult to believe in calculations to tell me how I behave or I should behave or what kind of a person I am. It's a difficult one for me to accept that I can calculate read somewhere to tell me that hey,
That makes two of us.
You know, the beauty about life is that, and that statement of belief is that there are certain things, whether you believe them or not, it doesn't change whether they are facts or not. They still remain facts, whether you believe them or not. So I think it's just about exposure, to be honest. When you do that, even that assessment, you actually realize that no, I'm more inclined. There are four personalities that are there. Whether you go anywhere, it doesn't matter. You find yourself falling into this category. What happens is you may incline more, or it's a combination. But one way or another, there's an area where you're more strong. And look, that's why there are people who study these things and they are able to help you. And all that. The problem with you and me is that where we come from, even the school you went, there was not even a psychologist. But now you'll be fighting with your school teacher saying your son has some psychological issues, because we never had that. We find a way to cope with some of these things. There's no scientific basis to tell us that this is why we are behaving a particular way. So I hope to expose you to some of those things, and maybe we can tell the wife is the best person to confirm whether it's true or not.
I take it in follow signs as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's move on. So mute again. Okay, thank you. Self-managed people, they adopt or they gain self-awareness. They are consciously improving behaviors, beliefs, and attitudes to keep themselves on track. Struggling people, they make important choices unconsciously, and they get involved in self-sabotaging habits. I like this one because, you know, the truth is sometimes there are certain things that we just leave and we never consciously make those decisions or confront certain things because we don't want to, we know what it will take us, but we don't want to confront them. So it's important that you are more aware of what is happening, the decisions that you make, the attitudes that your behavior, you are clearly conscious about how you want to do certain to conduct yourself. Self-managed people, they adopt lifelong learning. Hello? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, there's a background. If somebody could just mute, please. We can all check if they are on mute. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Okay. Self-managed people adopt lifelong learning, finding valuable lessons and wisdom in nearly every experience. So they don't make excuses about the experience that they go through. Whether it's failure or not, they still take a learning out of that. And that's important. But struggling people, they resist new learnings and imaginative ideas, which are seen either as boring or fearful. So they don't really want to imagine new ideas or to learn something new. They just feel like, God, no, I'm just like this. Life is unfair anyway. So yeah, we don't have those people in this group. That's why you are here. So, anyway, yeah, self-managed people, they develop emotional intelligence, and this is very critical. I think not just only in business, but when it comes to dealing with people, emotional intelligence is critical. Effectively managing their emotions in support of their goals and dreams. So they channel their emotions to be able to support their dreams and their goals. It's important. So it's a conscious decision. It does not just happen. Whereas struggling people, they live at the mercy of strong emotions such as anger, anxiety, need for instant gratification. So they are just they just want things just like that. Mostly they are gamblers. Self-managed people, they believe in themselves, see themselves as capable, lovable, unconditionally worthy as human beings. Struggling people, they doubt their confidence and personal values and feel inadequate to reach their goals. So part of this, and I'll be honest with you, part of these things, the struggling people, some of these things that we have, lack of self-confidence, it's not so much that's your personality or anything. It's because of some of the experiences that we've been through. Trauma, for instance. There are a lot of things that we've been through in life that we never really want to confront those situations, and as a result, we never really move on. You have confidence issues. Some of these things can be traced to some of the traumas that you've gone through in life. Somebody says something, it hurts you deeper than the value of the words themselves. It's because there's a wound that is there. So those are things that are important as we, especially when we interact with people. There's a saying that says, hurt people hurt others. People who have anxieties, people who have, they have a way of being retaliative. They retaliate. When you say something, even if it's a mistake, you will regret why did you even say something like that. It could be a joke, but it's much more deeper. So I think for me, as we look at this, it's important to also introspect and look at ourselves and say, which traits don't I like that I have? Some of the behavioral patterns, some of the things that I do, whether it's emotionally and all that, question yourself from time to time, is this emotional intelligence? Or I'm just behaving right, running with or following the wave of my emotions. I don't necessarily say, okay, here I need to hold back. So this is part of all self-management. Okay, the second element to this is scheduling of activities. One of the key behaviors highlighted above is the necessity for planning your life and not leaving anything to chance. The need for planning is important both for your career and your personal life. But what should you be planning? Use the activity block below to identify the areas of your life that you should be planning for. This is the activity block. So you complete the block as such. It's important to do this exercise for yourselves individually. So we have working goals and we have personal goals. It's critical that we have that balance, that you set the goals for your work. I always say that the two needs to correlate, speak to each other. If they don't, it means you are like a schizophrenic person. Your life does not link up, it does not communicate to each other, your personal and your work. Somewhere, somehow, they need to come together. And I think there's a saying that says, for you to become successful, you need to love your work or love what you do. So if it's not natural, your work, it's not necessarily what we could call your calling or in line with what you really enjoy to do. One way or another, you just need to develop the love for it. Then it will become easier. It will flow well in your life. If it doesn't work, then find something that really pleases you. That's how you become successful at what you do. Okay, learners note, someone once wrote, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. The sad thing about life is that if you don't deliberately take control, somebody else is controlling you. And you are at the mercy of other people. It's not just circumstances. I think that's where we limit it to. But it's beyond the circumstances, it's people behind. So if you are not going to be willing to plan your own life, you are at the mercy of other people's plans. And if they don't suit you, don't complain, because you never took time to plan for yourself. Planning is like a rudder of a ship. Without a rudder, the ship it's at the mercy of the sea, the wind, and the currents. There are 6 generic steps to planning according to conventional wisdom. Number 1, establish a realistic target. This is your goal. So realistic, it means something that is, and I think that's always a debatable word, but it's something that can be practically achieved. So does it mean it doesn't have to be wild? It can be wild, a wild dream or whatever, but the moment we put it as a goal, it means there's a practical way to get to it. It's important. Number 2, ask yourself the 5 W's and 1 H. What, who, where, when, why, and how. To determine what needs to be done, how it's to be done, and by whom. That's important. Number 3, you schedule the activities in order that they should take place. So it means priority. You need to be able to prioritize your activities. Number 4, tell everyone who's involved in your plan. Tell them plan. There is number 5, implement the plan. Number 6, check your regular progress against the plan, taking corrective action when necessary. I think this is very important, because some of the things we need to accept that there are things that will be lagging behind, and we wouldn't have done them right. But as we keep checking, there are corrective measures that we'll be able to start. That's part of introspection. You start to check, what did I not do right? What did I not? This is not to self-blame or self-sabotage or say bad things about yourself. No, it's to say, okay, what can I do better? And that's progressive. Progressive people, they say, okay, here I may not have done well, but let me find a better way to do it better next time. And we don't settle on failure. We don't settle when we have fallen. We rise and say, how do I do it better? If I don't know, go ask somebody. That's how we can be able to progress and take ownership of our own lives. Setting goals. Goal setting is unfortunately not as straightforward as it sounds. It takes a great deal of thought, energy to decide what you should be aiming for. Goals also need to be challenging yet achievable. Conventional wisdom states that goals should be smart. So SMART goals, what does SMART stand for? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, SMART. What are SMART goals?
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound.
Okay, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Can you explain, somebody explain to me that? I think specific, we are clear, measurable, we are clear, attainable, and realistic. What's the difference? What would you say the difference is? An attainable goal versus a realistic goal. What would you specify when it comes to attainable? So specific, it means it has to be, it can't be fake. Measurable, it means we need to be able to measure it in quantity. So I would say 10% of this, I need to have achieved 100%. Just hold on, guys. Patu, out, please, and close the door on your way out. Okay, so it means you need to be able to quantify it. It needs to have, and we need to be able to say 100% of this by this time, or like that. And then A, attainable, what would it be?
So I think that attainable is also realistic. I just forgot what that R means. I don't think R means realistic. I think attainable and realistic is one thing. I'm just trying to remember what that R means. Then the T is time bound.
Okay.
Just so that I think the attainable just means that based on your capacity in terms of human capital and resources, you come up and say, let's say for example for MUMA, right now you are working on a portfolio towards a billion portfolio by 2023. Then all of a sudden you say by 2024 we want 100 billion. You know, based on your resources and current capacities, it might not be attainable to aim for 100 billion in 2024.
Right. So one would also use the word achievable. So that means within scope. Or the same way, it's the same as attainable. It's possible to accomplish within a particular time. And then your R will be relevant. It must be relevant to your job or within the job function. Does it make sense? So it's not just something that is out of the blue. It must be in line with what you are talking about, a job function. That's why it has to be, though it could make sense somewhere else, but if it's not in line with what you're doing, then it's not relevant. And then time bound, of course, it has to be specific to a certain time. You need to specify by when. By 2023, by that's our magic number, by in 2 months time, or things like that, by 2021. It needs, those are important smart goals. We need to be able to always look at that, and it helps so that you don't just put things that are just vague and all over the place. At least you can be able to use these 5 things as a measure, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, as a measure. There we go. These letters make up an acronym: specific, measurable. Your goals must be quantifiable so that you can be able to track your progress. It is not enough to simply just state that you want to sell more houses. You need to say how many more houses you want to sell and in what time period. Achievable, your goals needs to be a stretch, but to be motivating. They must also be achievable. Since goals are not since goals that are not achievable are demotivating to individual, one tends quickly to give up. So it's important that you don't overestimate yourself at the goals, so that you don't find yourself, if you can get closer to it, you can easily be demotivated. So it can work on the negative side. Realistic, you may decide to set yourself the target for selling at least 10 houses a day, but is this target really realistic given the state of the economy, the cost, the activities of competitors, and the various other relevant constraints? So maybe just to unpack this, so when we look at realistic, we need to then say, what is the context? In the context of COVID, the same goals that you set in the beginning of the year, are they still realistic? Do you get what I'm saying? So it's those measures. So we need to look at all the context and the environment that your goals are going to exist in. Those will always differ from time to time. So from one year to the other, you find that the context drastically changes when the year changes, or when something new comes in. The context obviously changes how your goals can be achieved. If you think about a sniper, if anyone, I always think about this example. A sniper, it's that guy that normally whether it's a Marine sniper, or I think they normally come from the Marines, or the soldiers. So it's the guy who's able to hit a target from even afar. They are not the ones who get into the middle of the war and all that. They stay far, locate the target, and part of that is they will look at the context, the wind. There's somebody who will be calculating the wind, the direction of the wind, so that the bullet can be able to hit the target specifically where they want. So it's not just you shoot and hope that it hits the enemy. No, there's a target. So it's important for us to also be like that. We're able to understand the context of where we are operating, and be able to set our goals in that way. Time years or time years, that's the T. You need to be able to state that when are you going to be able to achieve your goal. This will help you periodically to be able to track your progress, so that you can be able to take corrective action as to when necessary. Tips: it's a good idea to visualize yourself actually achieving your goals. Some people cut out pictures, they stick them on their wall or place them on their computer. We were laughing with Boma Tamara earlier.
I've got a Volvo that for some reason I've always loved this car for many years, and I've got it here on my desktop, and it always motivates. The beauty about that is that it goes beyond just it could just be a car. To everybody else, it's just a car, but no, there are many other things linked to it. It's a story for another day. But it's important to be able to visualize this. Have your dream board, so that you can be able to do this. I always encourage, especially for personal, I always encourage that let it be also something that you involve your family. Even when you are trying to achieve those things, the first audience really to have when it comes to your dreams and all that, I believe in speaking your dreams. I believe when you keep saying them, you are actually motivating yourself. You are actually speaking those things back to you, and they paint a picture. There's something about words. When you tell a story, somebody just listening, if you've ever listened to the story on radio, you can actually picture, while the words can create a picture, and that's important. We normally miss that about when we do our another person, to yourself. You are repainting that picture back to yourself, and it will help you to do to motivate you to be able to go ahead and do it, even when failure is facing you, or anything that could bring doubt. So visualization of your goal is important. Scheduling your goals. Once your goals have been clearly defined, it will help if the incremental steps leading to achievement of the goals are listed. When you have compiled a full list of necessary activities, you can then start to prioritize and schedule the necessary activities to ensure that you achieve your goal. The process of establishing priorities will help you to maintain your focus and reduce your level of stress. I don't know about you, but sometimes it gets, when there's too many things, it's not everybody. When there's too many things on my table, I don't like disorder. The first thing that I will do is to first reorganize, whether it's my desktop, whether it's whatever. If I've got too many things, when I reorganize, I start to think more clearly. But where there's clutter and all those kind of things, it blocks my flow. I don't get to think. Yeah. So it helps to be able to, even when it comes to your priorities, it helps when it's so many things, you list them, but you prioritize them in order. And it takes discipline to actually be able to put that right order, and be able to make sure you follow it. Sometimes, and I mean, this is really part of your motivation. Sometimes the priority could be different. The priority could be, let me get the easy things out of the way. And that way I'm building momentum, I'm gaining courage, and I'm gaining motivation, because I can be able to build, it goes according to how difficult things are. Somebody could prioritize it in the order of agency. So priority is just to make sure that you list things, which one comes first and which one follows. That's all really it means. The process of establishing priorities will help you to maintain your focus and reduce your level of stress. There are numerous ways to set priorities, but the simplest way for you is to create a priority category list for yourself. That is the one shown in the page below, so like this one. So priority code A, must do, urgent. B, should do, a second order item. 3, could do, when and if time allows. So this helps in how you can be able to set your priorities, right? This is the examples, or the example of the activity schedule that you can be able to have. For instance, you prepare your budget, who bill, when, 30th of June, who allocated the task, it's Tabo, when was it completed, completion date, when should it be completed, 29. review, and then it talks about that. So you have a different, if you check here, your priorities are also as such. You can be able to see the things that do project plan in being on B1, Bill on the 4th, who allocated the task, it's Tabo. So you can be able to use, there are many tools that you can be able to use. This is your activity. So I urge you to be able to go through this, and we can be able to check it, whether you're on the right track or not. But the idea is that you yourself should be clear about how you manage yourself. Time management tools and methods. Effectively managing your time can be a crucial factor in determining how close you get to achieving your goals. Successful time management will depend on your ability to organize and to plan your time effectively. It is necessary, therefore, to identify the most common time wasters. Typical time wasters would include the following. 1. Procrastination. Work off to later for later instead of doing it immediately can lead to stress, overburdening, and ultimately missed deadlines. Number 2, disorganization. If your desk is so cluttered that you cannot even find articles that you're seeking, you will be inevitably be wasting significant time and effort in looking for things. Number 3, telephone calls and emails. Dealing with each and every telephone calls and email that comes in will definitely distract you from the immediate task at hand. It takes a while to refocus each time. This also wastes valuable time. This is important. Number 4, it's meetings. Many meetings are unstructured. As a result, time wasting. Always prepare an agenda for a meeting and stick to it. I've seen and I've learned that if you don't organize yourself, you are at the mercy of other people. So if you can't take time and say, this is my time to do this, somebody else is going to call you and they will keep you engaged. And sometimes it starts by saying, do you have a moment? And the moment it's 20 minutes and you're like, hey, when you have to go back, you can't even remember what you were supposed to do, or time has gone. It's very important to be able to know and identify some of these time wasters. They are very, like meetings are important, but unstructured meetings can waste your time and they can take too long. And sometimes it's okay to say, I'm not available. Because people will schedule meetings for you, and you just have to say, yes, I'm available. By the time you wake up, you are in 5 meetings that you actually were not even supposed to be there. You've just wasted most of your day. So it's important to be able to have the discipline to know which meetings are critical for you, which meetings I should be attending, and which ones I should not even be part of. That I'm just a general, I'm just there to listen, but there's no really real value that I'm adding. Same thing with phone calls. I tell you, they can really waste. Now, another thing is WhatsApp. It's added on this. It may not be much of emails anymore, but WhatsApp, I tell you, it can really be quite a time waster. And it's for one thing you can't deal with. It's a full inbox. When you have to go through every one of the emails, it takes time. Sometimes you need to just allocate that time separately. But if you just randomly gonna be opening up emails, they can throw you off, some of them. It's a balancing act. Self-reflection. Maybe just before we go into this, what beside the ones that are here, what are some of the time wasters that you would say you've identified? Ladies and gentlemen, just name one and pass, and then somebody else.
For me, I would say social media and driving a lot. Long distances can be time wasters because it in the time that you take to drive maybe 40 minutes to the office every day, you could be using that time to work from home or get things done.
Thank you. Who else? Okay, all right.
TV as well.
Okay, which one?
TV, movies, Netflix.
TV. Yes, Netflix, TV. All those things can really be, without being aware, you'd find yourself, especially series. I tell you, they have a way of just absorbing you. You start off by saying, I'm just unwinding. You wake up, you've already wasted or burnt 2-3 hours that you could have used for something else and all that. So for me, part of prioritizing, and I think it's not everybody who has mastered this, but part of prioritizing is to be able to be fair to yourself. Allocate that time for TV. Allocate that time to unwind. Then you don't feel guilty because you know I've allocated this particular time to do this, and it's only fair to yourself and to really to have that time for family. You don't allocate it, you'll find that you are just stressed every time. You're guilty half of the time that, hey, I didn't get to spend time with this and all those with the kids and all that. Okay, make a list of other time wasters, things that you encounter in your job environment, and indicate how you think you can control these factors so that you are able to make the most of effective use of your valuable time. Time-saving tools and methods. Good time-saving methods and tools that you must practice to manage your time effectively. Number one, get started. Gather the information that you need and plan to start. A good tool to employ here would be for you to keep and regularly update a project plan or a diary. Make a to-do list. If you know exactly what you need to do each day, it is much easier to make a time. Plan what needs to be done and leave time open for emergencies. I like this one because most of the time it's that you over plan, you will be stressed because everything that comes as emergencies disorganizes you. So you need to leave that room for that. Prioritize. Divide your daily task up by creating and using a priority category list. We've already touched on this. Use a diary. Schedule all your appointments and tasks in a diary so that you do not lose track of your time. Do only one task at a time. It's much more effective to do one thing at a time and to give that particular task your undivided attention. Here is the issue here, and I think maybe it's for me, but I think it's important. I think we are in a world where multitasking has become almost like a norm. I know ladies pride themselves of saying, we are great at multitasking. But I always say that when you look at the issue of, it's one thing to multitask, but are you really are you gaining more value? Because certain things, when you give that full attention, you can be able to do a lot and be really very productive. It's not just to get things done, but it's also to really say, is there value in what I have done? Have I put much more out, more than just barely just getting it done? And I think that's important. Doing one thing at a time. Some things needs real focus. Well, there's a room for also multitasking. Establish deadlines for every task. If a task is taking too long to complete, evaluate why it's so. This is so, and establish essential remedial measures, including, for instance, additional training. This is very critical. Sometimes we never really introspect or look at, why is this thing taking too long? Maybe I don't have the right skills. Maybe I don't have, if I could just then ask somebody who has the right skills, I would still get the work done on time. But you keep on struggling with something too long, you find that you've wasted most of the time that you could have been used as productive time. Make time for yourself. Ensure that you make time for yourself. That's a you time. Very critical. Very critical. And I've learned that sometimes we burn out because we never take time to just relax and just rethink our lives, rethink our values. What I'm doing, I may be doing very well, getting great results, but am I getting fulfillment out of it? So that self-time, it helps you to do those things, because we need to always evaluate things according to our own values. People get resentful after they've done very successful work, but they have no fulfillment out of what they've done. It just takes you to even deeper stress and all kinds of things, depression, because you've done so well, everybody's praising you, but you are empty inside. It doesn't mean anything to you. It is not aligned to your values. So I always say that me time helps you to be able to always come back to say, what does this really mean to me? Achieving this, what does it mean to me personally? Okay. Mentor the discussion, time management. Your facilitator will lead a class discussion on time management. In your class, discussing the following time management constraints that estate agents might have. Describe some of the time management tools available and how this could be effectively used in real estate environment. So think about it in the real estate environment. What are the time management constraints that an estate agent might have? Talk to me. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to assess where we are. Okay. All right, can we do this just in the interest of time? I just want to see if we can move a little bit quicker. Are we still together? Hello?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I will pass. Career development. The Oxford English Dictionary defines career as an individual's course or progress through life, or a distinct portion of life. Career usually refers to work that a person gets paid to do. A career is traditionally seen as a course of successive situations making up a person's work. One can, for example, have a sporting career, a musical career, all kinds of, and real estate, it's also a career. Just as it's been emphasized that it's essential that one should not leave the achievement of one's goals to chance, so it is equally important not to leave one's career to chance. It is important that you carefully plan your career from the first day that you start working, so that you know what position you will be in and when, and what you hope to earn as far as your career is concerned. So I think people think that if you can all check your mute button, please. There's a background noise. Thank you. People think that the moment they start working for themselves, they don't need to have a career. Entrepreneurship is a career. Real estate is a career. It's you still need to have your career path. You still need to plan how that will turn out. And I think that's important. People always think it's when you are behind, you're working for somebody, that you need to plan your career and all that, and they just go on with whatever comes. No, it's important that we plan how our career is going to pan out. How do you want to see it unfold, literally, and how do you want to grow in that? Making career choices and decisions, very critical. This is what Ball defines career management. Managing the organizational career, this deals with the career management task of individuals within the workplace, such as decision making, life stage transition, dealing with stress, etc. Managing boundaryless or boundaryless careers. This refers to skills needed by workers whose employment is beyond the boundaries of a single organization. A work style common among, for example, it's artists, designers, entrepreneurs, and all that. Taking control of one's personal development. As employers take less responsibilities, employees need to take control of their own development in order to maintain and enhance their employability. So in this case, it goes the same way, that employability, it's not being employed by somebody. It means the ability to be able to sell your skill. So if you are not going to be able to update or package your skill well enough, or grow it in whatever stream you are in, you find that you are no longer employable, or your skill is no longer employable in the market. So it's very critical that we look at it not only as a way of being employed by somebody, but even as self-employed people, we need to look at it that way. Career path and opportunities in real estate, these are some of them. There are a number of different career options that are open to people within the real estate sector, and I think this is very important for us who are here. Principal agent, non-principal agent, administrator, canvasser, secretary, conveyancing attorney, paralegal secretary, bond originator, office manager, or financial controller or accountant, receptionist. These are some of the career opportunities that are there within the real estate sector, and you can be able to grow within that.
Moses?
Hello?
Sorry, can I just ask a question? What is the difference between an administrator and a secretary, and also administrator, secretary, office managers? What is the difference, if you can just enlighten me?
So I'm not sure Rina can clarify on the secretary, but an administrator would be somebody who's, from my point of view, would be somebody who would be handling documents, who will be able to make sure that they organize the documentation is properly organized, they are put where they are supposed to be, like we were looking at yesterday. A secretary could be maybe somebody who organizes meetings. Rina, can you clarify some of this in real application?
Yes. An administrator here is like an office person, more of the admin, who will take all the documentation and make sure it's filed correct. It can also be like a FICA officer, make sure that the contract is complete. And on the other note, if somebody canvassed the property, you've got your list, and making sure that the are there and file it and have it all in order.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Then the secretary.
The secretary, in this case, well, administrator and the secretary can be, if you are not big,
The same thing.
the same person.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Office manager?
Moses,
Yes.
if I can just give my opinion on that based on the experience that I had. An administrator is more like a project manager in the office, for a lack of a better word, but they just administrate all the work that needs to be done. Versus a secretary. Normally a secretary is for your high level management and everything like that, where they are just focused on that just one manager, or focus on servicing two managers at maximum. You know, their meetings, their everything. You know, so a secretary normally is called a personal assistant, because they help a specific person, whereas an administrator administrates the work of the office, like the things we were dealing with yesterday about the filing management systems and everything like that, buying that stock materials like your papers and everything, making sure in the office that everything runs smoothly. That would be an administrator.
Can I just say, Cabela, now I agree with you in general companies, it works like that. But in an estate agency business, I don't think the work is that much to have actually two positions to do that. Normally, the principal of the company is also an estate agent, sort of, and or otherwise act as partly as an administrator. That is basically how it works. So the work gets done between the principal and the secretary. Normally the principal is not that important, if I can say it that way, to have a private secretary.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, estate agents, yes?
Can I also contribute?
Yes.
Okay, I want to agree with Rina and also the gentleman, I did not see his name here, who spoke just before Rina. And also to add that an administrator in big company, it's a professional position.
Yeah.
Yes, so this person takes care of organizational administration. For example, myself coming from a government institution, the administrator there was at a managerial level and will have all these junior administrators, the secretaries, and everybody else. And they've got this system that is IT managed or developed by IT, where every paperwork after whatever needed to be done on it and it's signed off, it will then be routed to this particular office, and it is saved whether in hard copies and scanned, whatever. And that person also coordinates all other communications within different departments. So it's in most of big companies, that is a very, very professional position, and that person is very, very important for the organization.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you. Okay.
Another question, Ben. Sorry, Moses. Sorry.
Yes.
Am I correct, or is my thinking twisted in thinking that these three positions, administrator, secretary, and office manager, am I correct in thinking that it is a position that has been left for women in our 21st century office? Or is it that anybody can do it, but it's just that the preferred sex of choice is female, maybe because they can multitask, or it's just that way? People prefer to work with females in those positions.
Anyone who wants to answer this one? Ladies, what do you think?
I think males have not exposed themselves, or rather shown interest in going for those positions. They've also seen them as more roles for women, because I've had a couple of instances where we would look for administrators. When you take out a post, you would never get a response for any male who's interested in those positions.
Right. Interesting. So
Yes, that's very interesting. I also want to add, my administrator is a man. And I found it's been 3 years now, this man is working with me as an administrator. But at first, it just wasn't comfortable to call this man from his corner to say, I want you to bring me a pen and I'm printing from your machine. Make sure you bring it to my office and scan it. And I don't know why, but it was so strange for me to do it. I've gotten used to it. He's my secretary.
of saying women are like that. When you check personalities, you will actually realize that there are women who are actually very disorganized and who can multitask. And that's not to say, yeah, it's a personality issue more than just a sex issue.
Yeah, another
Okay.
example is of nurses, you know. Nursing was just associated with females.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will find it a bit difficult when you see a male nurse, you know, it's just one of those.
Yeah, it's still a bit, it's still one of those uncomfortable things. Yeah, but anyway, it's such its nature. What can we say? But things are changing, eh? Things are changing a lot. We're getting men moving into some of these careers. Okay, let's move on. An estate agent may furthermore elect to practice in any one of the differentiated areas of estate agency, including residential, commercial, community schemes, agricultural, business broking or brokering, social housing, facility management, auctioneering. Rina, you still have your certificate for what you call this guy, the auctioneers. What's happening? Is Rina there?
Moses, yes, I'm still an auctioneer.
Oh yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, you see, you don't necessarily need to know how to speak fast to be an auctioneer. So you can still be an auctioneer, and that's another career path. Yes.
I can just say that in auctioneering for property, the trick of the trade is actually not to speak fast, because you have to wipe the people up, and you cannot do speak too fast.
Okay, thank you for that. Where you start, and I think maybe this differentiation is important, because what it does is it allows you to hone your skill or to master your skill, because all these things are different. Commercial, it's a whole different ball game compared to just residential or selling houses. If we look at also residential development, it's a different approach altogether compared to single or individual homes. So all these things, if you are able to find where you can be able to do well, it helps to be able to find that to develop that skill in that area and be a master in it. You may not necessarily master all of these things or do all of them. Agriculture, there is a new phenomenon that is happening. Many couple of, actually I've realized it's gaining momentum. People who buy farms, they develop or start a farm from scratch, develop a farm, and then you sell it. So it means you put the pipes together, you put all those things, prepare the soil, and say this is a farm specific for this type of crops or these types of things. It's gaining momentum. I've been hearing a number of people doing that, specializing in just that. So if you are going to sell a farm, you will need to answer things like the soil type. What can I plant there? Those are things that the clients will be interested in. So it's more than just saying this is the size of the land and all that. So it's important for us to be able to look at these differentiated streams and know which ones am I willing to go to and want to master, for instance. Okay, where you start and where you end up is typically referred to as career path. You would usually envision yourself moving up the career path, as for instance, from being a canvasser to becoming a non-principal agent, to running your own enterprise as a principal agent and employing non-principal agents, estate agents. So that's important. Canvassing, that's another one. But there are people who are actually just good at that, being able to find those opportunities, but to sell them, maybe not so much. So these are different career paths that you can look at in real estate. Career path could, however, be horizontal, moving from one job to another at the same hierarchical level, or even downwards, in that maybe a principal agent but elect to return to being a non-principal agent, simply because he prefer to work as a salesperson rather than as an administrator. The ideal career choice for you will depend on a number of personal characteristics that will be discussed in the next session. Mentorship discussion, a facilitator will lead a class of discussion on wide career choices in real estate environment. In class, discuss the following: list at least 3 other career besides those already listed above. What do they do? If you were given a chance to develop yourself, what any of this, what would you your priority be? So those are some of the things, and I think in a good time, Rina, it would be good to unpack some of this as a path, so that somebody can be able to see that how do I move from being maybe how do you develop being a canvasser, for instance? How do you develop yourself in focusing on residential or community schemes or agriculture, business brokering or broking? What does that entail? Good to look at that. Auctioneering, what do you need to do to be an auctioneer? What is required? What do I need to develop, and what do I need to get together? What are the benefits versus being a normal estate agent? If I become an auctioneer, what more does it be? Instead of just a career accident, it helps when somebody is more aware of where they are going than just stumbling into things and yeah. Okay. We'll find time to be able to do that. Choosing a career, each person has different personality, and one which is very unique. Thank you. Sorry. Which is unique as their fingerprint. Our personality determines, that's what I was talking about earlier, determines how we react to different situations, which situations we like and which we avoid, which people we like and which people we avoid. Our personality determines how we react to situations, what we like and which one we avoid. Yes,
the background noise is
my apology, but yeah. My apology, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, working from home. What situations we like and which ones we avoid. What people we like and avoid. So that's really what different person. Being satisfied in your career choice is one of the most important aspects of your personal happiness. So do not leave it to chance. Take time to know yourself and to match your personality characteristics with your career requirements that best suits you. Remember to plan your career development so that you are able to move as far up as the career path as you wish to. So let me give you an example. One of the things I've learned at work, and I think, have you ever had such a thing as taking a higher position maybe earlier than it was supposed to? So you move into a position, it's a good opportunity, but you find that you've not developed the requisite skills to sustain in that position. Has anyone ever experienced something like that? That you'd feel like a promotion, you would have rather stayed there and develop yourself long enough, then you would be qualified to move to the next level. Well, not so much about qualification, but it's so much about being well developed and having the requisite skills and experience to carry a certain position. Have anyone ever experienced that? That you've moved up, but you feel like you've moved up a bit too early?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've experienced that. I moved to a supervision a position where I was previously working, but I found that I couldn't really discipline people, so it was a bit of a hard one for me. Anybody else as a supervisor had to now supervise discipline and taking people to DP. Yeah, just those kind of things was just a bit too much for me. I don't know if whether I would say it was a character or if whether I hadn't developed a certain skill in that managerial position.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it could be a combination of things. Like at times, it's your readiness. That maybe at that time you were not yet ready to handle something like this. Sometimes it's just exposure, and sometimes it's just your own personality that it doesn't work. Like you are too kind and soft. You can't handle or telling people where to go and all those kind of things. And at times it needs, it's something that in certain positions you could have developed over time, but at that time you're just not ready to handle it. So it's a balancing act. But I think all I'm saying is it happens that sometimes when you don't plan your career well, you don't literally say this is where I'm going. When you know where you are going, you are able to prepare for that place before you go, other than just finding yourself in the deep end and you literally struggle. I mean, I've seen in a position where I have a boss who has no clue what that job entails. You always have to feel like you are teaching your boss what to do, and it's not a nice place to be in. They end up being crippling people because they are trying to exert authority, but they actually just don't have the skill. Okay, our personality determines how we. Sorry, just remember to plan your career development so that you are able to move as far as your career path as you wish. So, in addition to personality type, there are other personal characteristics that are important when it comes to choosing and excelling in a career. Number one, your personal intellect, or your level of intelligence as measured by intelligence. That's another part that I'm not sure. Maybe I'm like Kanye on this one. The IQ, whether I believe in what they call IQ or not, I'm not so sure. Emotional intelligence, the EI that we're talking about. This is the level of emotional intelligence which describes an ability, capacity, or skill to perceive, access, and manage the emotions of oneself and others. It is a relatively new area of psychological research. Number three, your personal values. This is an ambiguous concept governing human behavior. Values are considered to be subjective and vary across different people and cultures. Type of values would include ethical or moral values, doctrinal or ideological, political or religious values, social values, aesthetics values. It is important to consider your values when choosing a career. It will also be it will be difficult to work for a company which has values that may be in conflict with your own, such as, for example, a company that does not practice good ethics, cheats on its tax return, or even worse. You see, this is your values are very critical. How you choose to work for a certain company and all that is to look at some of those values. Of course, values may not be company values. Sometimes it's the person who's you are working with, your colleagues could have, or your boss, or that principal agent could have values that are in conflict with yours. How do you work around that? Skills is another thing. Certain careers, such as, for example, medicine, accounting, computer programming, they require definite and unique skills from practitioners. One would be automatically precluded from such careers if one did not possess the required skills. The other one is people versus task orientation. Some careers such as estate agency, sales, marketing, and nursing have some strong people focus, while others, including finance, engineering, and banking, have a strong task orientation. So the balance in this one would be, you'd find that somebody who's a principal or who becomes an administrator would probably be more task oriented. They can be able to manage teams, they can be able to allocate tasks like that. But and I think that's the balancing act that you'd find that if you're just good at people, I got to a place where personally, work-wise, I was getting frustrated. My background is IT. I was getting frustrated just being behind the computer. It's one of those things. I draw energy from people. The one who keeps talking, the one who leads the conversations, things like that. Some people get bored, especially in the IT space. People want to sit. People who just want to sit behind their computer and nothing else, do what they are supposed to do, not be chatting or anything out there, easily bored. If I'm in a lecture, I'm more like Alex. And if I don't ask a question, if I don't interrupt the lecturer or facilitator, the chances are I'm bored and sleeping. So I have to always interact, jump in, and I absorb better than just listening quietly and not doing anything. So it's different things for different people, different scope for different people. Bear in mind that your principal also have a valuable contribution to make to the advancement of your career plan and path. You should therefore always consider the needs of the enterprise that you are in when planning your future career path. I think this is very, very important. That how you choose also the estate agents that you are part of, it's important. If, for instance, you want to sell, you don't want to sell to you want to sell. There are estate agents that don't specialize in commercial, for instance. They just don't know how to do those. So you want to learn to move in there. You want to go to estate agents that specialize in commercial. That would help you in your career path. Describe what personal characteristics has to do with career choices, and think of some examples from your own personal context. So we are about to wrap up, and I'm just gonna try to move a little bit quicker. Trends in real estate career development. Sorry. Okay, the educational structure for estate agents, I think we've, prior to introduction of outcome-based education, educational initiative did not comply with the requirements. The South African Qualification Act of 1995, the national, the NQF level, or what we call National Qualification Framework, the organizing framework for occupations. Your facilitator will lead a classroom discussing on the South African Qualification Authority. In your class discussions, the following: the purpose of the NQF, the NQF, which is Qualification Framework, the role of the South African SAQA, the role of organizing framework of occupants. Government, through the Department of Trade and Industry, regulates the real estate sector in a manner very similar to that in which the financial services sector regulates. So that's the DTI. In the latter instance, the Financial Advisory and Intermediary Services Act number 37 of 2002. That's a phase promulgated to regulate the business of financial services provider, who until 2002 were completely unregulated. Learner's notes: financial service providers are now required to register with the financial services of FACE requirements, which cover the broad range of financial advisory intermediary services that financial services provider render to their clients. There are many similarities between Estate Agency Affairs Act and FACE, as both acts have been designed with customer protection in mind. Consumer protection legislation, generally speaking, will follow a similar path. At the time of the publication of this material, the DTI had already finished the drafting of the proposed new regulation for the introduction of the NQF National Qualification Framework for Estate Agents. It is anticipated that the new education regulation, so we know we are in a different, what you're doing now, like your NQF level 4, RINA, it's regulated by the Estate Agency Board, right? Besides just the RINA?
Yes, I am. I'm registered there.
Yeah, so that's the main regulation. It's not just, so even if you qualify materially with the NQF level 4, you still need to write a board for you to qualify. The board is there for you to qualify as an estate agent, correct?
Can I just say, Moses, you will get a certificate from Bemore Institute to say that you have done this course and you have passed. And that certificate, you have to hand it in at the board, and then the board will give you authorization to write that exam. There's also small trainings or training material available for the exam, but it is based on this slideshow information.
Okay, so there we have it. So we've got two qualifications. We've got the NQF level 4, which is what you are doing. It's for non-principal agents who already registered with the EAB as at the effective date, will be granted until the end of that was back then, right? So now you have to do the qualification as Rina has said, which is registered, which is the NQF level 4. Real estate. Then there is now, for a principal agent, you need to do NQF level 5, which is something I'm sure was told. Next time we'll be working and taking that like we need. And now we already have, so far we are doing NQF level 4. Okay, requirements for new entrants. This one, okay, so all new estate agents entering the estate agency profession for the first time as from the effective date will be required to serve a compulsory 1-year internship. The intern estate agent will during this time work under the active supervision and control of the principal agent. And for a full status estate agent who has held a valid fidelity fund certificate for at least 3 years, mentor a protege relationship will thus be created. The intern estate agent will also be obliged to maintain and keep a logbook, also referred to as intern portfolio of evidence, reflecting the various estate agency functions and activities that have been undertaken and performed during the course of the internship period. So, Reina, here is a question. So, these things are supposed to be concurrent, or it can happen either you can start as an estate agent for the year and then you do NQF level 4 afterwards.
You can do them
concurrently.
You can do it concurrently, or you can do it, just sign up as an estate agent, an intern agent, and then as soon as you've done your logbook, you hand it in, and then you can, after that, do your NQF 4. But you can only write the board exam once you've done your NQF 4. So what we do is, at our level, they do not write exams. We help them to do this portfolio, this whole file, which will be examined and on which the assessors, moderators will issue a certificate, and then the actual exam is at the board itself.
Okay, thank you. So the resources, your internship agreement, which refers to, these are the resource guides, the copy of the internship agreement, Your principal and new entrants who wish to act as principal estate agents will have to be certified against that. That's basically what Rina was talking about. And then there's a professional designation examination, which is the completion of the further education and training or real estate agent national certificate. Real estate, as the case may be, constitutes a prerequisite for admission by the Professional Estate Agency Board to the Professional Designation Examination. This is the board. So the other one is continuous professional development, which is the CPD. The continuing professional development requirements will be implemented in accordance with the current best practices requirements in worldwide real estate regulatory jurisdiction. One of the major intentions of the Estate Agency Affairs Board is introducing the NQF level. The NQF for estate agents was to raise societal perception of estate agents to professional status. It is increasingly accepted that the members of the profession should maintain their professional standing through continuing professional education and development. Okay, so can you answer this? Okay, just tell you I'm still in the lecture. Sorry about that.
Hello.
So with the introduction of CPD, or continuous professional development in the estate agency profession, preferably from I think from 2009, that's when it started. The board will apply a system of reward. I'll jump that because now it's no longer the same. Career path strategy. In the interest to note that Estate Agency Affairs Board in fact envisages the implementation of total career path strategy for estate agents by introducing additional specializations skills program at a higher NQF level, possibly NQF level 6 and above, for both principal and non-principal agents in differentiated fields of estate agency. So this one, Rina, I'm not sure if this has been implemented as yet. The differentiated fields in estate agency, because I don't think, Rina, it's fine. I'll confirm this one, but I don't think this has been initiated as yet.
Sorry, Moses, I'm here.
No, I was saying the differentiated fields like NQF level 6, has that been initiated yet?
No, not. No, it's not yet. No. It's up to the NQF 5 at the moment.
Yeah, it's not even there in the new practitioners bill.
No, it's not
So
in the
it's probably-
practitioners bill. I think it will happen after this swap over. Then they will bring that one in, but at a later stage. At the moment, I think even what we do on the NQF level 5 level itself, it's very good, actually. The only thing that we do not really learn a lot about is commercial. That's all. But that's why we are there to be the mentors.
Okay. These are the various institutions that play a role. We have SAQA, of course, that says that your qualification is proper. And then you've got your SETA. So like this thing is done through a SETA, but ultimately it has to be given by SAQA. Ultimately, they are the final standard, the final body when it comes to any qualification in the country. National qualification framework, so that's based on a list of to say national NQF level of 1, 2, 3. So it's according to those standards. So it's already set by SAQA. You are able to know when you are at this qualification at this level, it's equivalent to maybe metric this level is equivalent to a degree, diploma, what. All those things are already set as the different levels. National Minimum Standards for Competence, also another body, of course, our main body, which is the EAB, Estate Agency Affairs Board. That's the board that we get registered with ultimately. We have your Service Sector Education and Training Authority, which is your SETA. We've got your SETA Quality Assurance, which they do the quality assurance. So after the files that we are talking about, so these are different, and I think this is important. For you to get a certificate, you need to have first gone through. They have to do your assessment for your files. For this one specifically, your file has to be assessed. There has to be a moderator. It has to be moderated. Ultimately, they need to then say, after what you have written, you are ready. We know that you are able, you have the right competency to be able to handle the knowledge, the information, and you've learned properly. So that's why you need to prepare your file very proper, because otherwise it's almost like there are those things that you say you don't fail. This one you start from scratch. If you can't do it right, there's not much room really to say no, supplementary or things like that. You literally start everything from the whole course, literally from scratch. So and really there's no reason why you would fail, but because you just didn't package your file properly, and maybe responding to the questions that have been there, the activities and all that. So you can be able to do this. It's all about self-management once again. So your accredited training provider, which in this case it's your MUMA, which is accredited. MUMA Investments, actually it's the one that is holding the accreditation, and is the one that is providing the Bemore Institute with that. So you've got your assessors and your moderators. Those are people who are already qualified to be able to do that. So you've got your principals. Those are the people who will be working with you. They have to have the NQF level 5. They are the ones who will be the estate agents. They will run the estate agents. New entrants to the estate agency practice will be required to undergo 12-month internship. We've already touched on that. And then the existing agents, of course, with NQF 4 certificate, national certificate. Okay, self-reflection. Do you know what? Do you now know precisely where you fit in, with which role players, and as an estate agent must you engage with? Have you checked to ensure that the RPL or training provider whom you are using to qualify yourself as an estate agent has been accredited with the services SETA, or is properly qualified to offer you the qualification that you have enrolled to? So that's really important, because otherwise you if we are bogus, you are in trouble. So you need to verify some of those things. Ask Mr. Stolle. He will give you the right credentials. Different structures or the identified role players will invariably impact upon you and your career development in estate sector. The services sector can in particular be used to acquire additional resources and benefits. The services sector, for example, does have some funding mechanisms that are available for both RPL, it means for people who just want to use prior learning, and the training for new entrants into estate agency profession. My thing is just jammed. Hello? Are we still together? Hello?
Yes, we are, Moses.
Yes.
My screen just froze. Okay, now we're back. So the prescribed qualification, so these are some of the qualification we've been talking about this, and I think Mr. Stolle has already given. You have your self-assessment, which come at the end of the module. Take time to review what you have learned. To conduct a self-assessment against the learning outcome. And your portfolio activities, refer to your portfolio guide for assessment activities related to this section. So maybe also, Rina, I think it's important to emphasize that let's get maybe from time to time, I know some of these things we did them when we were in the beginning, but let's get a time where we just take them through what they are supposed to prepare, so that at the end of this course, they are all ready and they have their things lined up. It should not be a last minute thing. We will prepare that. I'll talk to Rina and the team and we'll get that going. So ladies and gentlemen, that's it. I've tried to run as fast as I can, but we are still on time. And thank you very much. This was it for today. Any comment, anything before we close?
Thank you, Moses.
We covered. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one and good evening.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.